Okay, I think we can get started with today's webinar. So welcome again. Today's topic is crowdfunding. My name is Eva and I will be your trainer today, and we will go through the presentation. So we will, so I have a presentation, a PowerPoint that I will go through with you. And afterwards we have time for questions. So if you have any questions, you can just type them in the chat box and I will get to them after the webinar. We have some time left for that. I would also ask you to just stay muted throughout the webinar, just to make sure that there's no disturbances. And yeah, if you have questions, just keep them for the end and we can discuss them and we will have time to talk about them. So I think I can get started right away and we can just jump into the presentation. Okay, I hope you can all see my my screen now, the presentation. So as we said, today's topic is crowdfunding for nonprofits and how to succeed. My name is Eva. I'm from Germany and I'm currently also based in Germany. But I have been working with NGOs from Asia and South America for the last 10, 15 years. I lived in Nepal from 2012 to 2019 and worked with many different NGOs of all sizes, supporting them in their fundraising and in their resource mobilization. And I've also done my PhD in the field of development. I did research in Nepal about participation in development projects and sustainability of development projects. So that's kind of my background. And I've also run many successful crowdfunding campaigns for projects in South America, for projects in Nepal, in Asia, and have been very successful with that. So this is the experience I will share with you today. So today we will start by talking about what crowdfunding is, just so that we're all on the same page. And then we will talk about the platforms you can use, because there are many online platforms that you can use that help you to crowdfund online and that have many tools that are going to be really helpful for you. And then we will talk about for which kinds of projects it works, because it doesn't work for every project and you have to think carefully about the kind of project that you want to present to your audience. And then in the end, we will talk a bit about how to make your campaign successful when you decided to actually run a campaign and you've decided on a project, etc. So what is crowdfunding? So we have quite a long text here, but it is important that you understand what we're actually talking about, what the idea behind it is. So crowdfunding is the use of small amounts of capital from a large number of individuals to finance a new business venture. Crowdfunding also makes use of accessible of vast networks of people through social media and crowdfunding websites to bring investors and entrepreneurs together, with the potential to increase entrepreneurship by expanding the pool of investors. So as you can see, this definition is taken from the business side of this issue, because crowdfunding is also used for businesses, obviously, but what we're talking about is donations. We'll see that on the next slide again. So crowdfunding basically means to take, instead of finding one investor or one donor, you go to many people and take small amounts, because the idea behind that is that if you have an idea that can motivate many to support you, to work with you, then they will be much more willing to give a small amount and thus have little risk, instead of trying to find one person who will give you a huge amount, which is also a huge risk for that person. It's the same in fundraising. If you want to convince one person to give you $50,000, that's going to be a challenge. You need to find someone who has that much money available and who is willing to give a donation that high. Then you have to find somebody who likes your project, who likes your approach. You have to know the person, you have to establish a relationship, etc. So that is a challenge. But instead, if you can find many people who will give you $100 or $50, then you obviously also will have a lot of work because you have to communicate with so many people. But for the individual person who wants to give you money or wants to support you, the threshold to actually reaching the decision to give you something is much lower, because if you give 100, well, I know that in many of the countries that you live in, $100 still is a very high amount. But if you talk to people in the US or in Europe, if you ask them for $100, then they will be much quicker to give that, because it's not that huge of an amount, as if you ask them for thousands of dollars. And that's the idea behind it, that if you can kind of drum up excitement, that you can reach many people and get small amounts from those many people. Obviously, it's a strategic decision if you want to use that kind of tool or a different tool. So like I said before, crowdfunding was established in the context of business development. There are different ways of using it. For example, some people use this crowd investing. They have a business idea and they're looking for investors, and go to websites that also offer this, like Indiegogo, I think, is one of those that also does it for businesses, or a Kickstarter, where you can invest or where you can present your business idea, and then people can invest little money with little risk associated to it, and then the business can start producing their product, or starting their company, etc. And then those people have either have bought like a little bit of stock in that company once it goes when stock exists, or they have like a part of the company, etc. And there's pre-sales, when it's actually about a project. And this is more actually what Kickstarter does, is that you can present a project, a product that you want to sell in the end, and people can buy your product before you've ever produced it. So then once you have enough money and you can start running the company and you can start production, people will get the product. So for example, on Kickstarter, I bought some construction materials for like a small toy for my brother. Not a real toy, but it's, you could play with small balls with it, and something he really likes. And it was a very new idea, and they didn't have enough money to start production, so they did this pre-sales thing where you could buy the future product, and now after a year it will get delivered because they collected enough money. So that's pre-sales. Then you have crowd lending, where it's basically the same as crowd investing, where just many people put up money so that one person can start something and then they have to pay it back. So that's a bit what unions sometimes do, or cooperatives in many cases, where they collect money so that one person can start a small business and then they pay it back, and then the next person gets something, etc. But what we are going to talk about today is crowdfunding in the context of donations, because that's what you are interested in. If you run an NGO, you have a project, you need money to run your project, so you came across crowdfunding as a tool to use to actually get those funds. Like I said before, obviously it's a strategic decision that you have to make within your organization. If you do want to collect money that way, because as I said, it's probably, if you use crowdfunding, you will get smaller amounts, but more of them. But obviously it's a different audience, it's a different target market that you are talking to if you use crowdfunding. If your past donors have been very wealthy individuals that gave like once a year, they are probably the wrong audience for a crowdfunding campaign, because they won't be interested to be bombarded by emails and to like look at flashy homepages, etc. If you already have those people on your roster, then maybe crowdfunding wouldn't be the best. Or if you have exclusively worked with grants in the past, then to start a crowdfunding campaign is a very new step that you have to make consciously, because it's a different kind of engagement. You need to engage with people. It's a lot of work. You have to constantly inform. You have to make sure everybody knows what you're doing. You have to have media to present your project, etc. You have to talk to the donors and inform them. So it is a lot of work, but it's very different work than if you work with individuals or companies or foundations. But if you have made that strategic decision that this is a tool that you want to use, then it can be a great one if you have the right project as well. So how does crowdfunding work? What's the procedure behind it? So there are many different, for donations, there are many crowdfunding platforms that are really helpful. So on these platforms, you sign up. Sometimes you have to be invited, sometimes you have to apply, sometimes you can just sign up and that's that. And they offer you the opportunity to craft a page for your project, to craft a page where you present your work, and then people can donate. And the advantage of doing it this way is that they provide you with the entire payment structure. So it's trustworthy, because sometimes donors have, or people have, an issue giving directly to a small NGO that they've never heard of before, because they feel like, I don't want to give my credit card data. I don't know if it reaches there. I'm not sure if I will get my tax exemption certificate, etc. But if they go through a platform like this that is registered often in their own country or in the US and Europe, then the trust is much higher. So if you go through them and partner up with them, that gives your projects and your work a lot of credibility. So GoFundMe, I would say, and Global Giving are probably the most known internationally. You can find many, many international projects on most pages. And a lot of money is raised through them. betterplace.org is a German platform. It was the first platform like that in Germany. It's been around for a while and it's really well. I have worked a lot with Better Place and I have very, very good experiences with them. Then there are a couple of other ones like Lychee, EcoCrowd, and also Facebook offers the opportunity to crowdfund, and is probably one of the most effective ones as well, because so many people are already using Facebook. So you have to think carefully about which platform you want to work with. There are different requirements. We will talk about that. But Facebook might be a really good one to also have if crowdfunding is your tool, because so many people are already on Facebook. When you talk about online marketing or anything, you always want to avoid that people have to click too many times. So if you have a very high following on Facebook and they're super engaged and you want to start a crowdfunding campaign, it's probably a better idea to host that on Facebook instead of having them click a link and go to another platform again. Those other platforms often give you more ways of designing your campaign, so it has advantages as well. But the less clicks you have people make, the better your results usually, because people don't like clicking too much. Then you will always lose someone on the way. Like someone will click on Global Giving and then see, I have to click consent to cookies again, and I'm not going there. Somebody else will get lost. Somebody else will not click the pay button or something. So if you can stay on the platforms that you're already using, that's always better. And this is the same for obviously not making a campaign on all of those. Choose one. If you want to work with one platform, then choose one and stick with that. Obviously, if you have a very, very high following in Europe or in Germany, you could also think of like picking one from Germany, like Better Place, and then one international one for America, like Global Giving, because it's getting easier, but still, even nowadays, if you are in America, you want to make a donation, it's a bit more difficult to make that through Better Place, and vice versa. If you're in Germany, you want to make a donation, it's a bit more difficult to do that through Global Giving. So if you know that you have a huge audience, a very engaged audience in Europe, then I would choose a European platform. If you have one in America, I would choose an American one. And if you have both, then maybe you could consider also having two campaigns. So this is what a typical page looks like. This is just something that I copied from Global Giving. And here you can see, you can already see a couple of very important points that make a successful campaign. So you can, the good thing is that you always see how much money is you ask for. So what's the total that the organization, the project is asking for, you have to give that. And then how much money will cover for what. And that is one of the nicest things that you have on these platforms, because that really encourages donations. Because oftentimes people, with all the scandals that have happened with donations being misappropriated and things being unclear, people have lost faith a little bit. So if you can be more transparent and if you can share more information, if you can make sure that people exactly know what you want to do with the money, then it's obviously better. So if, for example, here in this example, they say 11 euros will provide 40 children with a lunch for one day. So on the one hand, the donor knows exactly what their money will be used for. And on the other hand, they will also feel very good, because they don't feel like, oh, I've given like $10, $11 or euros to some organization. I don't know what happened, but they can say, I gave 11 euros today and I fed 40 children. This money can feed 40 children. They have like a picture in their mind that creates emotion. Later, we will talk about how important emotion is for these campaigns. But exactly knowing what the money is used for and maybe even tying like an emotional value to it will encourage donations. And so then the next one is actually for 2 days. So I think if I have to make the decision, do I want to give 11 or 22 euros? And I know I don't, and I know it's going to support children. Well, if I'm tight, I don't have too much money, and I'm just thinking, well, I'm supporting children, so, but I don't have a lot of money myself. Well, I give 11, and I already feel a little bit good. But if I know that like 11 will feed 40 children for 1 day and 22 will actually feed them for 2 full days, that might give me enough of a good feeling to say, yes, I will give the 22. So this tool is really useful on those crowdfunding campaigns. So you have to really think of small activities, small portions of your project, and you have to understand how much it is to cover for one of those and which ones you want to use there, because it's important that you use, small steps that create emotion. When I just started out with this, I think I approached it a bit not so well, because I thought it's just important for people to understand what we spent the money for. So we had like a project we were building something, and I made like 100 bricks, 200 bricks, a pile of bamboo, like something like that, like the roof. And obviously that was already good, but it didn't tie an emotional value to it. If you have something nice like feeding 40 children and being like concise and precise, that of course creates an emotion in the person who gives money. Then you can also see other facts that they display, like how many people have already donated, how many people donate regularly, how many years is the project on the platform. All of that is are facts that create more trust. And how much money is remaining. That's also very important. So when you start a crowdfunding campaign, it's also a good idea to not put the amount too high, because this it's just knowing that just a little bit is missing can also inspire a donation. Because if you see one of those pages and you see, oh, they're only missing $50 to achieve their goal, then somebody might not give 30, but might give the 50 just to cap it off. And so in this case, this is a huge project, so they decided to raise a high amount. But if you have a smaller project, and if you can maybe split it up into different components, it's a good idea to have something smaller that is achievable at a reasonable amount of time, because there are some campaigns online that you see they are running for years and they never reach their goal, and that doesn't give a good feeling for the donors. It's better to have like 3 projects on there and each project wants $5,000 than to have one that is asking for 15 and never reaching the goal. And then you have all those pictures, which is extremely important as well, because it is a visual tool. So people want to see pictures. Sometimes you can upload videos even. Here you see the tab reports. So you have to report back. You can include more pictures, and then you have all those share buttons that you want people to use, because you need people to share your project. So these are the basic components, and this is an example of one platform. Every platform looks a little bit different, but most of them have all of those components and tools available. So what are the requirements to sign up on a crowdfunding platform? Well, they differ with each platform. It's not the same. There are not rules for all of them, but most of them ask for official registration and for tax documents, because usually when someone donates money to your project through one of those platforms, then they will give the form for the tax exemption later. So they need to know, to be able to do that, they need to know that you are tax exempt. So for that, they need your documentation. Then obviously you need the account information. So I know that sometimes can be an issue for small organizations in specific countries, where, for example, PayPal is not used, or it's very difficult to connect an international bank account to the account that they run. So you have to really research if the platforms that you want to work with have the tools that needed to be able to pay you. Because if you collect money there, at first, obviously, it's on that platform, and then you can usually request that they pay the amount to your account. And for that, your account needs to be compatible with the system that they use, because if it's not, then you have money sitting there and you can never get it. And often the account that you give there has to be associated with you as well. So I know that there's many workarounds. So sometimes people use bank accounts of people that live abroad, private bank accounts, and take the money and they send it again through different means, because it's from what person to person, it's easier. But oftentimes that doesn't work. So you really have to research if the platform that you want to use has all those tools that you need, and has and if you are eligible to work with them. So that's the main thing that you have to find out before. Then what kinds of projects do you need? So what kinds of projects work for this? Obviously, most importantly, like I said before, you need projects with visual media. So if you run a project that is just concerns with data collection or only statistic work in an office, it's going to be very difficult for you to have crowdfunding success if you don't already have a very engaged audience. Because obviously, if you are looking for people to support the project, for new people, then you need something that is engaging, that is interesting, that's a bit flashy, that people want to look at. So projects that can produce visual media, so pictures, videos, etc., are very good for this. And then projects that inspire emotion. Again, if it's something super dry, might be very, very important. But if it's a very dry content that doesn't really inspire emotion, that's not super interesting, then it's going to be very challenging for you to get people to donate to your cause, because crowdfunding is also something quick. So it's not like someone who wants to give you $5,000 will probably think very thoroughly about your project, and he or she will want to have a lot of information, and they want to dig deep, and they really want to understand every single detail of your project. But with crowdfunding, it's a quick process. So people see something and they immediately make a split decision. Oh, I'll give $10, I'll give $50, or they're not making that decision. So obviously you need something that inspires emotion and that can reach people quickly. I think one of the most common projects are projects that work with children. But again, I think we will talk about that a little bit later, but I want to say it in the beginning. With children and pictures, it's very difficult that you don't use, obviously you don't use them as props, they don't like stage them. You need the permission of the parents to share pictures, and it's not always a good idea. And people are also getting more and more aware of the issues with that. But still, it is something that can reach the hearts of people very quickly if you work with children and better the lives of young people. Yeah, projects need to be interesting. So if possible, you should present projects that are to some degree innovative, that have some new ideas, that put a new spin to things. So not the same project that you have run for the last 20 years without any changes. So just giving out food or something very basic is always a challenge. If you can, it's a good idea to add something interesting, something new, some innovative elements. Maybe you designed an app to do something like that. It's easier to sell that. And obviously it's much easier to have crowdfunding success if you already have a huge following. So if you have many social media followers, if you have a mailing list, if you have many supporters in country, if you have access to newspapers, etc., then it's much easier to get this rolling, because crowdfunding lives from sharing. People give to your campaign, but it's also worth a lot of money if they just share it. So I think a better place, they calculated that each share, so somebody sharing your campaign is worth like 10 euros, because with each share, your campaign, just by statistics, because more people will get to know it, more people will look at it, more people will share it, will receive more money. So obviously that's very important, and that's what we'll talk about later, is to prepare for crowdfunding campaigns or to work in crowdfunding. it is crucial that you start working on your social media, on your PR strategy, even before you start those campaigns. Because if you only talk to your followers when you want money from them, then they will not really feel seen, they will not feel respected. But if you always talk to your followers, if you have a great social media following, then they will also be very happy to jump on those campaigns. So this is the same that I already started talking about. Crowdfunding pages need to be shared. So if you have the perfect page, it looks beautiful, everything is great, but nobody shares it, then you will also not get donations. There are some huge organizations in Germany, we've seen in the past those examples that have a big budget and they seem to be the perfect organizations to run a crowdfunding campaign, and they even bought like adverts on bus stations, etc. But those campaigns, they just never really took off because they didn't they were not shared a lot, because they were not interesting. There was like they were not engaging, they were not really speaking to people, and so they didn't get shared. And you can always see how many times things get shared, because that's displayed with the buttons often. And if that's not happening, that's an issue. So they need to be shared. You need to ask your followers to share them. You need to create content that people want to share, either with some valuable information or some very interesting visual media, something new, a new approach, or something that touches them, etc. And again, you need to engage your network regularly. So you can't only contact them when you're asking for money. If you do that, then yeah, they will probably not be very happy about that. But if you constantly engage your audience, share information from your project, ask them questions, interact with them, answer to their comments, etc., then people will be very happy to also support you when you ask them for, if it's reasonable, obviously. And with that, you have to start before you have a crowdfunding campaign, because if you start your social media and the first post you ever make is a link to your crowdfunding campaign, then it probably won't work very well, because you need those people to already be loyal to you, to be interested in your work, and to be engaged by your work, to then send them to the campaign page and ask them to donate or to share it. That's a lot of work, but it's worth it, because obviously social media is a tool that can be used for public relations for NGOs in many ways. And what you also have to keep in mind, even if we're talking about crowdfunding, usually produces many small donations, but at the same time, all those small donations add up. And you can also those small donations add up, and often you can also convert someone who gives you $50 and again 50, and maybe you can start talking to them, you can engage them more, you can add them in your network, and at some point you can convert them into a major donor. Maybe they will give more, maybe they will give you every Christmas, etc. Those are very important things to keep in mind, that investing in your social media followers, in those networks, makes a lot of sense. So how can you make your project shareable? How can you make sure that people want to share your project? As we said, this is super important. If people don't share your project, you will have a big problem in the end, because nobody will see it, and then nobody will donate, because you need numbers in this case. So what can you do? I've said that before, with visual media is very important. Today, on the internet, everything is overwhelming. You can see the TikTok and Instagram reels, it's so short, they're even becoming shorter, and everybody's overwhelmed with content. So you go on Facebook and you see so many different things. So to stick out from that, you need visual media, because nobody reads a long text anymore. People just their eyes are drawn to videos, to photos, etc. So they need to be good. They need to be good quality. They need to show the right things. They need to be interesting, engaging, etc. So when you plan for your project, you should, from the beginning, include planning for what kind of media you can use, what kind of pictures can you use, what kind of videos can you use, etc. Then you need to use storytelling tools. Storytelling is an instrument that makes sure that the facts that you want to convey are create emotion. Because if you tell a story, that people remember that much better than if you just tell them facts. So I think some studies showed that you can remember stories 8 times better than just facts. And you want people to remember you, because maybe they will not click your link for the first time, but maybe if they see it again, or they remember the great content that you had, then they will click it again, or maybe search for it even. So storytelling means to put a person, a hero, in the center, and usually that's either one of the beneficiaries, or maybe also a donor that had some things to overcome, and with the help of a mentor, in which case the mentor probably would be your organization, was able to overcome all the challenges. And if you tell those stories, maybe through just pictures, maybe with interviews, videos, case studies, etc., you can engage people, you can create emotion, and you can convert that emotion into action. At the same time, it is really crucial that you don't use pity please. We see that sometimes with projects, also with children, like I said before, when the pictures of children are used and children are displayed like in very bad poverty. Obviously, I know that this is the case in many situations, but still, those are individuals with dignity, and they shouldn't be shown that way. And that makes people really tired. So they see a horrible picture, maybe they will give you once, but they will probably not come back, because what they connect, the emotion that they connect to that is not a positive one, but a negative one, because they feel really bad, and nobody wants to feel really bad. If you can, try to create positive emotions. So instead of saying, oh, these children don't have any food and they are starving every day, maybe you can already explain how your work has improved the situation, or what this donation can do, etc. Trying to focus on the positive, obviously not without not showing the struggle and the issues. Obviously that needs to be shown. And there are also some projects that don't really have a positive spin. Like if you're working in war zones, etc., there's not much you can show differently. But in many projects, you can try to instill those positive emotions in people, because if they have a positive emotion while donating, they will be much more prone to come back and do it again. If they have a negative emotion while donating, they might not. So you have to try to trick them a little bit into donating again. Creating emotions that's connected to that. If you feel something, then it's becoming much more important to you, as if you just do it because of facts. And to engage your supporters in the long term, because someone who constantly shares your project with a big audience is as valuable as someone who gives to your project. So if you engage with your supporters again and again and let them know about the importance of sharing, of giving, etc., but also do all the other stuff we talked about, talking to them, sharing information about your project, doing other things, and engage with them long term, then they will be much more happy to do the same for you, to support you, to let their own audience, their own friends know about your project, etc. And how can you create emotion? Emotion exists or comes into existence when the readers or the viewers can identify with the story. So when they can see part of themselves in that story. And that doesn't mean that they have to come from, if you work with poor people, poor children, that doesn't mean that the reader has to come from a poor background, but maybe some part of the struggle they can recognize themselves in. Or maybe you could also put a donor in the center and tell the story of someone who wasn't sure about donating and then decided to donate. If there's an interesting spin to that, that could also be a story, and people would be very easily be able to identify with that. And they need to feel something positive, and connect this good feeling to donating, to the process, to what they did and what they want to do. So again, no pity please, no making them feel bad only, because that will not work long term. Maybe that will create a one-time donation, but then people will not come back. Or not all people will come back. But if you can connect something positive towards it in their mind, then they will keep coming back. And the need for support has to be communicated clearly. So these tools that I showed you before, where you can actually say what exactly you need the money for, are very helpful, because yeah, they make it easy for them to really identify what are the specific needs that people have. What can I do here? Again, this creates this emotion of having done something, having achieved something positive, because they feel like, yeah, they exactly know what the money will do in the field. And this knowledge, this being able to clearly say what the money achieves, is something that will also push people towards actually donating. Yeah, and then as we said before, you need a network. Without a network, crowdfunding doesn't work, because you need them to support, to share, etc. You need to develop your network when you don't have a campaign. So you need to share all the stuff that we talked about, even when you don't have a crowdfunding campaign. We have some material about social media for NGOs as well on our page, proposals for NGOs.com, and you can find some articles there. But we always recommend to choose a couple of pages that you have profiles on. For example, Facebook is a very common one. You can also think about using Instagram if you have great pictures. That might be a good way to engage with people. Then there's the newer ones like TikTok, that some NGOs also have great success with. But you have to decide also, and this is the last bullet on this slide as well, if you have the resources for that. You obviously have to know if you have someone that can post every day on Facebook, that can answer comments, that can produce new content on a constant base, because social media only works if you can kind of feed it constantly. If you post something and then you post nothing for 3 months and then post something again, the algorithm will not show your work. You will not find many new followers from within Facebook. And obviously then if you have a campaign, then not many people will see it. But if you really make that as a priority for your organization, to invest in developing your social media following, and then also being able to share those campaigns there, then you need someone to do that for you. So you need the resources to do it. Social media is unfortunately nothing that can be just done on the side. If possible, you should have someone who's responsible for it, who understands it, and who can feed those networks with the content that it needs. Because again, also, you would post something very different on Facebook than you would on Instagram or on TikTok, because the audience is different. You need to know where the people are that you want to reach, and you need to clearly understand what kind of content works for which platform. It's also always a great idea to develop a newsletter, so to collect email addresses of former donors, supporters, etc. Obviously, having them sign all the or click all the important GDPR forms so that it's all legal. But if you have a list of email addresses of supporters, you can also share information with that list. You can have a great newsletter. Email marketing in the world of online marketing is still the most successful form of marketing, because people already know you, people have already heard from you, they like you, and so they will be much more likely to give to your organization again, to support you again. If you find somebody new on Facebook, that's called a cold contact, the threshold to actually get them to donate to you is higher than if you already know them. If they are in your network on social media, you know them. And if they are on your email list, you know them even better, because they even gave you your email, their email address. So developing that is always great, to have those emails, because also when you work with social media can change at any moment. One day they could decide to make Facebook not free anymore. So then you would have a big problem if your only channel to reaching supporters is Facebook, or if they change the algorithm, or if they changed anything else, or if they block your profile for whichever reason, you don't have access to the people that liked your work anymore. But if you have an email list for a newsletter, nobody can take that away from you. You can always still use that and reach out to people. So that's really a great way to connect with your supporters, and then also to share your crowdfunding campaign. Because if it's shared through email, that's even more valuable because people give more importance to that, and they are more likely to then give a donation through that. Yeah, and with that, we come to the end of the prepared presentation part. I hope you were able to take away some knowledge about crowdfunding, how to set up a campaign, and what is important when you think about starting crowdfunding, which kinds of projects you can set up there and you can use for it. I want to say a couple of words about some of the offers that we have to actually go into a little bit more detail about some of the things that I was talking about. Because at Philanthropia, we offer different online courses, different resources about fundraising in general and proposal writing in particular. And we have this one great online course, which is a 5-module course that covers everything that you need to know to be a successful fundraiser. So we start at the strategy development that I've talked about briefly today, where you decide which kind of tools you want to use, how you want to position yourself, etc. Then we talk about donor research. In this case, when you decide to fundraise with foundations, with institutional donors, how you find the right partners, how you network with them. Again, the networking part, you can use a lot of that part for crowdfunding as well, or for talking with your supporters. Then how to find out if you're eligible for a grant, and then how to write a proposal. So if that is an interesting topic for you, today we would like to offer you the course at 50% off. So you can just go over there. I think my team, yeah, they just posted the link in the chat. So if you're interested with this coupon, you can get it for 50% off, which is something that we rarely do. So yeah, if you want to grab that, then please go ahead. The other thing that we have at a lower price, but which is still amazing, is this book. So we've written an ebook that was just updated last week. So it's top-notch, up-to-date. And it's called The NGO Guide to Proposal Writing. It's more than 300 pages of information about how to write a proposal. And from that, even if you don't write proposals on a constant base, you can still learn a lot from it about how to write documents, how to use storytelling, etc., because that's all included there. And usually we sell this book as an ebook, not as the printed copy, but as an ebook with a copy of a full proposal template and a checklist that will help you to go through application processes, etc. Usually it's $25, but again, today we would make a great deal for you and give it out for $9.99. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can write proposals, how you can position yourself, etc., then don't miss this opportunity and get this great book with, it has a lot of condensed great knowledge, and I can really recommend it highly. We've worked a lot on it, and also on updating it. It has some new information, some new sections that we've added, and it's really great. So yeah, just jump on the book. So yeah, I see in the comments there's some questions. I'm sure that my team will also post the link to the book in the comments right now. Otherwise, you will also get a follow-up email to this webinar where we include the link, but maybe we will also be able to post the link in the comments right now. Yeah, so now we still have time for questions, but I think there's, so I can also just tell you about the other courses that we offer, because we have many online courses about different topics, from something broader, like writing a project plan as a base for a successful proposal, to more specific ones like fundraising from US foundations, from USAID, from European foundations. So go to philanthropia.org to check out all the online courses that we have. And if you use the PFN users code, you can get a 30% discount on all the courses. So right now we offer, like I said, 50% on the 5 obstacles course and on the book. But book is even more. Book is just for $9.90 because it's still our rollout phase after updating it. And for the rest of the courses, you can get 30% off if you use PFN users when you go to our website. Okay, but now we got to the end. Now we have time for questions. Oh, and I see that a couple of people are joining from, have joined from Nepal as well. Maybe it's interesting for you to hear that at the end of March, I think 20th and 22nd, we will actually do a live training in Nepal, in Kathmandu, about fundraising. So if you or anybody from your organization in Nepal, in Kathmandu, is interested to join us, then please just let us know and write an email to info@philanthropia.org. And I think there are a couple of spots left on this training. So if you are in Nepal and would be interested to do a 2-day workshop with me, then please get in touch, and I hope we can make it work. Okay, so now we still have time for some questions. I will see if I can find your questions buried in all those comments. So there's one question that I see immediately: can people from Australia access funds from Europe? Yes, there's especially if you run a crowdfunding campaign, that's the nice thing, it can be international, no? People from anywhere in the world can donate to your campaigns, and you can, if you have chosen the correct platform for your purpose, the platform that can pay you out, that is, then you can just share it internationally, and yeah, and everybody can donate to it. And the same goes for every other kind of every other kind of funding. If you apply for grants, etc., that is also possible internationally most of the times. But then you have to check the eligibility criteria. Okay, so I think my team just posted the link for the book as well. So if you're interested in getting the book, please just jump over and get it now. I'm not sure how long we will keep up that offer, because it's a very low price, but we really want to roll it out to many people, especially now that we've just updated it. Okay, let's see if there are questions. Okay. So I just see that what the question, the program on getting funds from Europe. Yeah, you can also take those courses from anywhere, and you will see that funds are, so if you are based in Australia, then you can also obviously access funds from European foundations. Many of them fund international, and in the course we really concentrate on how to fundraise from them, etc. You can get the course, and with the coupon code PFN users, you will get 30% off of that course as well. Maybe Pretty could also just post the link to that specific course in the comments, and then if you're interested, you can just click it and check it out. Abdul is asking, is LinkedIn a good platform to reach potential donors? Yes and no. I think LinkedIn is obviously is a business platform, so people share a lot, are interested in learning about business, etc., when they go on that platform. So I think on the one hand, it's a good platform, because people who are signed up on LinkedIn usually have they are working, they have some standing, they have maybe also some surplus money and would be interested in donating. But on the other hand, many people are looking more for professional information on LinkedIn. So you have to be a bit careful, not do too much. Make sure that you also share other valuable information that people would think is interesting, and then you can do it. But what I often see is campaigns that don't look nice shared on LinkedIn, and I think that way it doesn't work. Or what often happens to me is that because I have a very big network on LinkedIn, so I get constant messages of people from people that just say, oh, please support our project, and then they just sent me with a message, they just sent me the link to the campaign. And in those cases, I never click the link, because I'm very busy. I also have many projects that I already support. I directly work with a couple of projects in Nepal, and so it's not very interesting for me. And then just sending the link and not much more information and not connecting with me at any personal level will not achieve that I will click that link. So it needs a little bit more work and a little bit more personal approach, I would say. And again, it's a professional platform. So for sharing, I would say Facebook is still a very good one if you have an engaged network. Yeah, maybe even Instagram, but Instagram doesn't like you sharing links. So that's always an issue. If you don't have a specific size, then that's difficult. But if you look at sales only, Instagram is one of the best converting platforms for sales. So it should work for donations as well. If you know how to use it nicely, and if you know how to use all those tools like make reels, etc., then directing people to your page. I think in Instagram, it's even more important that you create a positive emotion, because nobody goes on Instagram to get depressed. People go on Instagram to feel happy. So if you can create like a strong case for your project with some very positive emotions tied to it, I think Instagram would also be a good platform. Then there's a question from Musarat. Is there a bottleneck regarding country? I'm not sure if I understand that question correctly. So maybe you can clarify if I don't answer. I would say the bottleneck, or maybe the difficulty, is that some countries just can't, you can set up a campaign from anywhere, but if you have no proper registration documents, and I know that some countries just don't give them, or there's issues with registration, etc. It can be an issue because those platforms want to see documentation. Can also be a big issue if your country doesn't have the payment system. Like I think it was in India where it was super difficult to receive PayPal payments through an official lane, because that's the issue. You can't, times you can't plug in your private PayPal and then transfer the money, because they want to see that it's your official account, and that sometimes can be difficult. Often there's a workaround, like for the projects that I work with in Nepal and also in Ecuador, they would have issues using their account. So I have an NGO in Germany, so I use that NGO as a partner, and then I transfer the money to the partner organization. So that sometimes there are workarounds if you're a bit creative, but those would be the bottlenecks, I would say, if I understood your question correctly. And Marisol is asking if there's a way to see the contents of the book before. I think we have pictures of the table of contents on the page. We should have. Otherwise, we could also include the copy of the table of contents in our follow-up email if you're interested to see that. Okay, so apparently we don't have the table of contents on the page, so you know more than I do already. But then we will include it in our follow-up email, so that you will get a picture, and then you can see what's in the book, and you can see all the sections that we have. The minimum eligibility for applying, yeah, it's very different depending on the platform. Some want your official registration, some want nothing. I think in GoFundMe you can apply as an individual, and you just give your word, but obviously then people who donate won't get a tax exemption certificate. So there's ups and downs for all of that. It depends on the platform, so you have to just research the platform and see what they want to see from you. But again, I know that for a GoFundMe, for example, everybody can make a GoFundMe, and obviously also social projects can make a GoFundMe, but if I was a donor looking for an opportunity to donate some money, I think I wouldn't go with a GoFundMe campaign, because that's not so official. If there's something on Better Place or on these other platforms that are known for working with reliable development projects, I think I would give that more trust. So that's also something you should take into consideration. You can all, if you're interested in connecting with me, you can connect on LinkedIn. I'm there under Dr. Eva Wieners. You can search me and find me, and we can connect there. I think I got through most of the questions. So Musara is also asking if there's any bias regarding country. I wouldn't say this. So I think if you are able to explain your project in a great way, if you are able to present your project so that everybody understands why you want to implement it, why it makes sense, etc., I think there's no difficulty in presenting a project. Obviously, sometimes there's specific countries after, like, crowdfunding works very well after natural catastrophes or in situations like now with the war in Ukraine. Many people are donating also through these platforms to help or support the people. But so I wouldn't say there's any bias. I don't know if, again, I think the banking system might be the issue, and I don't know if in North Korea there's a banking system that would be able to plug into these systems. I don't think so, but I don't know enough detail about that. But that would be everything, I would say. Okay, thank you very much for participating. I hope you also enjoyed this webinar, and you were able to take away some interesting facts, some information. And I think our team posted again. So if you want to join us on Facebook, we also have a Facebook group, an FAQ group where people can discuss. And if you want to connect with me, please add me on LinkedIn. And if you're in Nepal, maybe we can connect personally. In this 2-day workshop, we will talk about many different projects, many ideas. So it's applicable for all kinds of projects. It's about fundraising, the course. So I had one question, if we have something specific for migrant workers. It's not specific, but it works for all kinds of projects out there, for all projects connected to development. If you are interested in fundraising, if you want to understand the processes, etc., if you want to overcome issues, then that training is for you, and I will be there for 2 days to answer all your questions and discuss. Okay, then we will have another webinar in 2 weeks, I think, or maybe in 3. We're not sure yet about the schedule because there's Easter as well, but we will let you know, and I hope to see many of you again. Thanks again, and goodbye.